The people, those people, be them in DC or in Brussels or what have you, they have no integrity, honor. Don't talk about it. They are basically what creeps, and they will do everything they can. The only thing they do is spin, PR. Okay, Russians don't care about PR. Russians already defeated NATO, and what can I say? They have this installation in Romania. They have the same installation in Poland. But as I already stated, those systems are obsolete. They are not designed to operate within the environment of the strategic and operational strategic hypersonic weapons. They can intercept nothing. So they are primarily destabilizing factor and basically propaganda thing to, you have to understand. Politicians in Poland or Romania are not very bright people, as they are pretty much everywhere. They don't understand military affairs. They don't understand how it relates to the security. They just know, oh yeah, give us this thing, and we think that this thing gonna work. It's not gonna work. But yeah, they like to have it, and plus it's a good business for some people. But yeah, it's, how to say it, those installations, they are not survivable in case of a real conflict, because they know they are not complete idiots there. Okay, there are professionals there, American military professionals who are good level professionals who understand the game, that the first thing they get in case of the, God forbid, some kind of the conflict, they have about 10 minutes. After that, Kinjal flies in, and you not survive. Nobody can survive Kinjal, and they cannot intercept it. They can do nothing about it. They probably, if they have their cruise missiles, they will be able to launch them. But that's, after that, they have to run immediately because they will be dead. And that's what they have there. There's what they have there is the Deveselo. Deveselo is their base for their what's called Aegis Ashore. It's nothing more Aegis Ashore than Spy 1D radar with all this combat information control system, which essentially you can literally, it even looks like the superstructure of the Ticonderoga class cruisers of the US Navy. You stick this active phased array, active electronically scanned phased array, you stick literally naval Mk-41 vertical launch systems there, and whatever you load there, that's why Russia was worrying about this, is that you can load the SM-6 and SM-2 missiles, which are air defense and anti-ballistic missiles like SM-2, but you can load there obviously Tomahawks and some kind of nuclear weapons there, cruise missile. So that was the main worry. Can they place a nuclear weapon there? Not. They better not. They know it's going to be casus belli. And as I already stated, the background factor, which very few are talking about, they wanted to split Russia from China. Didn't work. And as it should. And the more they will be spinning, the more they will be requiring of the abolition of the democratic institution and democratic control. And yeah, the media, all those Times, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, they are already meaning it true. We are 1 foot already in 1984. Eventually, they will have to close the borders and close any kind of the information coming from, for example, East and from Russia. So that is why Peskov essentially saying yesterday, that's what is this all about. Don't read it. Don't listen. Listen to what, if you want to know what is happening in Russia, listen to the official statements, because Russians follow their statements. They state the policy, they make policy statements. And this is the fate of combined West, because it has been defeated already. The fate of Ukraine is the fate of Europe, essentially, in the future, because they have nobody who can actually change the course. And in this case, they can spin and brainwash their people whatever they want, and especially considering the European conformism, which they love to their media. They really believe that. So British read their tabloids, Germans think as they told by whatever the Bild and what have you. Majority, at least, not all, but majority. Yeah, they will be told that, oh yeah, we won. They invented their offensive by running backwards. Ukraine went on offensive. Now where's Ukraine? And that's what is this all about. Spin. That's the only thing they can. Macron is on the service of Rothschild's family, and that's who he is. He knows nothing about anything. So goes for the French military, and yeah, they have independent nuclear deterrent, which is basically they inherited from the true French statesman General de Gaulle. There are no de Gaulles in France, none, not even close. So industrially, it's a midget, really. They have few industries in which they excel. For example, Airbus, obviously, which still a joint venture, so to speak, they do make decent engines. They can produce like 30 Rafales in like over 7 years. That's pretty much what they can do. They have a decent shipyards in Saint Nazaire, and they can build a nuclear submarine. The rest of it is just they don't have resources to do anything, let alone to have their. And when you look at this whole thing, is I don't know what they're thinking. And if anybody thinks that Germany can do anything about it, they are, I have to tell them, wake up and look at the date today, which is, of course, 2025. And Germany is being deindustrialized with incredible speed. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And you look at this, who else? There's nothing. UK doesn't have own nuclear deterrent. It has the platforms, but Trident 2 D5 missile belong to, they lease them from the United States, and they cannot launch them without the United States. Do you remember when the last time they tested ballistic missile, which they carry on their lateral fund nuclear-powered submarines, strategic missile submarines? I don't. If somebody can point me out to say, oh yeah, they tested it, and like Russians test them, launch them practically every year, and you look at this and they don't have midgets. They cannot produce anything which is adequate for the warfare of the 21st century. These are all legacy weapons. They're ASMP, whatever the name of their stupid missile, with a range of 300 kilometers. It's nuclear. You stick one on Rafale and it becomes their new strategic nuclear weapon. That's how they call it. It's not strategic. It's nuclear, but it's not strategic. So Europe is exposed. They are nobodies, and they have to admit and accept their fate and do what the United States tells them to do. And the United States will tell them to themselves, because the United States needs to do it too. So that's how it works. And so when there's a talk about denuclearization and Europe playing role, there is no nuclear umbrella in Europe. France are militarily impotent. Their nuclear deterrent size-wise compared to Russia dwarfs or order of magnitude, probably 2 orders of magnitude in its capability. Europe is irrelevant. They are puppies. They are chihuahuas. They are little dogs which will run to the feet of their master and wiggle their tails. I'm quoting Putin. Talking about Europe is not even serious matter, because these are impotent countries militarily, and they are declining industrially. When you look attentively at the pace of the deindustrialization of Europe, it's especially Germany, but not only Germany. When you look attentively at UK, it is a tragedy developing there, basically. It's horrible, okay? But in terms of Europe, they are chihuahuas. They're at the feet of their master because they are scared crapless with Trump. And they will continue to perform some kind of their coordination with the United States. But again, their plan, if you can call it plan, is very simple. It is all primarily for internal consumption. And Trump, being a narcissist and flamboyant hot air balloon, he needs to feel himself important in some kind of the proceedings which are happening on the global level. And as I already stated, Ukraine being a military defeat for NATO and United States. But yeah, these are Europeans. They're not very rebel. I don't buy it for a second. They will continue to vote for whatever they are told to vote for, except for Romanians. When we see now what is happening in Romania. And the fact that Trump, as it turned out, doesn't understand that United States is absolutely not what he's thinking about the United States. It's, remember Biden? We are the United States. We can do whatever we want. No, you can't. And that's the problem. They do not understand of very severe limitations of American power, while America still retains the status of the superpower. But even here, it's actually, despite the situation that America still has a lot of talent, has some resources, it is impossible to extricate United States from the underneath the absolutely debilitating national debt and essentially hidden inflation, which in order to prevent hyperinflation, United States constantly has to expand somewhere to some markets, or for example, like Trump says, oh yeah, 51st state Canada, oh, let's get Greenland, let's get something this. Sure, whatever, if it works, but the problem is present system is utterly corrupt and it doesn't function properly. If Donald Trump continues, he is Biden 2. He in foreign policy, he is Biden 2.0, but on steroids. So yeah, he has allegedly the American interest in his heart, which partially true. But as I already stated, the United States has so many problems at home that he better start solving them. Militarily, the United States now second rate, except for the nuclear weapons and remnants of the U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy still remains a premier force, and so that's what it is. But nuclear deterrent is, oh my God, the reality of the American nuclear deterrent is pretty grim. That's why Trump wants to, let's do the nuclear disarmament. Sure. The only reason he does this, not because he wants disarmament, the only reason he wants this because actually, as the Chinese probe has, which is correct in many respects, says if you sit long on the shore of the river, you will see the body of your enemy floating by. And the Russians do exactly the same because they know United States military is the way it's designed is unsustainable. They cannot sustain it. They cannot sustain its force. They cannot sustain it industrially, technologically, and things like that. And that is why when I say United States lost the arms race and badly, I mean it. There is no some kind of exaggeration or embellishment of the issue. It's actually probably much worse than I assume. And so if Trump can change something on that matter, possibly he can. But in terms of foreign policy, American foreign policy is highly uninformed and highly uncultured. It always was, but at least before that, you had the generation of the, let's say, people who remembered World War II. You don't have those people now. You have all those, some idealists, some downright morons who still believe that, oh yeah, we have power. You don't. But the United States and its rather highly uncultured, highly uneducated, and ignorant pretty much establishment, foreign policy establishment, they think that they can continue with this Ukraine. They can't. United States actually is hollowed out militarily. And the question is not only the purely professional problems, which I'm talking about, doctrine, other things, which is the TOE, table of organization and equipment, which is that of the obsolete army. It's the whole thing about how United States views the world, and that's what we have. And in this case, Lavrov is correct. If we have the contradictions, make sure that those contradictions are not irresolvable, which will bring to the conflict. United States cannot fight the conventional war, real conventional. The only thing that it has option is only nuclear weapon. It doesn't have those steps of the ladder, rungs of the ladder, for example, Russia has, because Russia has the escalation dominance in conventional field. United States doesn't have it. United States doesn't have hypersonics. They don't have Oрешnik. They don't have pretty much most of it. And Russians have it. They can do it convention. United States can't. And as a result, it has only one step, only one rung of the ladder. We either here or we're going and escalate to the nuclear threshold. And that's the danger. And the Russians understand this danger. Marco Rubio doesn't have real experience with diplomacy. Neither does Waltz in terms of national security. They are primarily all those guys. They grew up on the Patton movie and they believe in this pseudo-military BS. And the two critical appointments which Trump really succeeded making was obviously Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. And they are critical in probably streamlining what essentially came down to coup d'etat in the United States. And obviously, anybody who talks about democracy, they are being laughed at now around the world. American democracy, we know what it is now. But the problem is, of course, what he's talking about. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. Remember his 2018 super pooper missiles? They still cannot deploy the pooper missiles 7 years later. And he meant, of course, the long-range hypersonic weapon, LRHW, the Dark Shadow, whatever the name of this thing is. They still cannot properly deploy it. It's not even in IOC. And actually, the auditors for Pentagon say it's not ready. They wanted to deploy it again this June of 2025 after 3 relatively successful launches, whatever that means. So yeah, whatever. Iron Dome is there against the what is called essentially Katyusha rockets, which are nothing more than pipe made, or the cottage industry rockets by Hamas or Hezbollah, which used to be, and they're slow, predictable ballistic targets. And even there, Iron Dome failed. But the same will go to whatever the Golden Dome is. U.S. air defense is not even in the same league as Russia. And you can look up the government accountability office report on the issue of the American defense against cruise missile. Yeah, it's going to be great. That will be next F-35 program. So a lot of money, a lot of super pooper just coming up soon, shortly, and then nothing will happen, and they will produce their grossly inferior weapons which do not perform. And yeah, that's the American way, I guess, now to fight wars. The way United States exists today, it's an existential enemy of Russia. Simple as that. So all those things which on the Trump's side, all those moves, we're not talking about in relation to Europe. In relation to Europe, it's sheer accounting, pure accounting and bookkeeping, if you wish. Trump being, for some reason, he thinks himself as a genius in terms of getting deals. But in terms of Russia, it's very simple. That is why Mr. Trump doesn't get any success, because the Russians, they repeat ad nauseam. And it's in the latest statement of Vladimir Putin yesterday, after the talk with Mr. Trump, that, it's fine. But until the root causes are removed, special military operation continues. Simple as that. But Trump, being a showman, they changed dynamics in the sense that, it's good to talk, make no mistake. I am all for it, and diplomacy has to return. But no, Russia will be absolutely under sanctions. Nothing will be restored of substance. And his task now is to save the face somehow. But he could have done it 3 weeks ago by saying it's Biden's war, and that's it. He didn't do it. And no matter what Trump does, he still remains the enemy of Russia. He and Russian people, and it's strategically cannot be changed with the present-day American establishment. So you have to have the new generation of the American politicians and maybe the statesmen which will emerge from this generation, which will understand essentially the utility of that. And in fact, the very dangerous situation. He talks a lot about it, but he continues basically the Biden policy, just with a little bit of tweaking it here and there, trying to continue on the same path, essentially. Good luck, as I already said. So it is all diplomatic game Russians play, which is good. Make no mistake, it's better to talk than to fight. But it's all about Trump's show. He needs to save face now. He made this war his war. And now, no matter what he tries, there's no ceasefire. The Russians anticipated fully that Ukraine will break any kind of deals. They broke it today, attacking some, by the way, belonging to Chevron distribution station for the gas. They were able to hit one of the reservoirs or those things where that's about it. The Russians recognized immediately. They were laughing all over the place. But there is a nuance, and let's not go there. And so even that thing, which was essentially pretty symbolic, is gone now. So the special military operation continues and will continue until all objectives are met. And objectives are those elimination of those root causes. What are the root causes? Root causes are described with some adjustments after the December 2021 granted for the adjustment for the realities on the ground, the tactical and operational ones, is that, there is a NATO expansion. There are all kinds of nasty things which are done to Russia, including sanctions. Russians have no illusions whatsoever. Literally, an hour before his talk to Trump yesterday, Mr. Putin was speaking to the Russian Union of the Investors and Entrepreneurs, and he told them, I quote, "Don't hope that any sanctions will ever be lifted. we will continue to live under sanctions non-stop. So there you go. But the problem is that the West is not the West anymore. And it cannot produce any more other than some garbage like unnecessary functions on the iPhone, which is still produced in China. And all those things which they thought they were leading the world, they are not leaders there anymore. And as the result, when you look at the Eurasian landmass, with the exception of Europe, China is interested in Europe merely as the market. China is gigantic commercial power. And obviously, China is interested in the markets, make no mistake. We're all talking about capitalism. Russians are interested in markets. It's a foundation of the geopolitics. But you can have markets by developing them, not exploiting them in the classical colonialism way, when you essentially bring the cheap labor, cheap resources to metropole, and you do things in metropole and sell it back to colonies. No. You want the markets developed there because it brings up their general prosperity. You don't need West. It's a completely self-contained system which provides energy, provides technological development, education, all kinds of things. And that is the thing which lives now in parallel. Remember Trump, which cannot allow anybody bypass dollar. What are you going to do about it? Attack China? Good luck with that. Do you want to attack Russia? See what's going to happen. And that's the whole point. Suddenly they recognize that they are beginning to be sidelined. And the question is now, do they have resources to continue to be that West which it used to be? No. They failed militarily. Militarily, its record is pathetic, with the exception, of course, that it was Western civilization, which started European civilization to devastating world wars, more than 70 million people, and obviously all kinds of, and that's it. And this is what, for example, what is called today Global South understand. Because obviously, if you look at how it was developed under the combined West, make no mistake, there have been some positive. I do not want to completely discard the positive influence of the West on the rest of the world. We live in the world which was shaped by the Western civilization. Everything from mathematics to physics. Obviously, some civilizations prior to that contributed mightily. We talk about, obviously, Oriental civilization. We talk about the initial Islamic civilization contributing from Armi, who invented algebra and things of this nature. Yeah, but their Western contribution to their modern civilization is absolutely overwhelming, from their administration, sciences, arts, what have you. And we live in this world. Once you created this, that's the end of the civilization, because you turned out to be nothing more than essentially vulture. And they still thought that they can live like vulture. You can't, because now you have this huge land mass with a gigantic population, which can completely on its own continue to do everything from their fundamental scientific research to space programs. Russians and the Chinese are going to build a station on the moon. And it just, you look at this, oh my God. And then when they have this curtain of reality lifting in front of their eyes, and what they see, they are in shock. But it was developing there, and yeah, you can take a look at what Russians do in terms of rolling stock transportation. They don't need Siemens. They've been doing this for the last 20 years. It's just that nobody took note because they were so arrogant and ignorant. So in this case, what's the role of Europe especially? It's a secondary, it's a relatively little peninsula of the Eurasian landmass, which essentially will fall off as the center of any kind of the progressive, not progressive in the Western, but progressive for development of the human civilization thought. There's nothing there. And when you look at it, it's absolutely barren land of the basically politicians. And again, make no mistake, there is a very huge distinction between being a politician and being a statesman. West doesn't produce statesmen. They produce only childish politicians. And we saw it with the GDAP. There you go. That's what this all about. But what many people do not know, and we spoke about this, I obviously get invited into Russian media too. And when we spoke to our friends about a couple months ago, The actually directive for the Russian army is very clear. Prepare for the 2025 being the final year of the hostilities because everything needs to be finished off. So the 2025 is the year of the war for Russians, and they will continue to do what they're doing, whatever the remains of Ukraine. And again, each time Putin says something, the conditions much tougher than they were previously. Previously, they need this 30 days desperately to regroup them primarily, maybe to provide some military assistance, and that's about it. They again, don't forget, they have about 160,000 18-year-olds, which they still can draft and then throw them into mid grinder, which will continue the agony of the combined West slightly longer. And Russian troops already recorded, and this is confirmed, not only 18 years old in Kursk, they're 14 years old. There you go. Well, they ready to fight to the last Ukrainian. Russia will oblige. But that tells you everything you need to know about that you cannot negotiate with the United States. There's no good faith. And as always, we cheated, we lied, we stole, as Mr. Pompeo once said it. That's exactly what it is. So Trump administration is no different. And this is good. And I agree, this is kindergarten, childish behavior, but that's what they are. They always were for the last, 30 years. The times of the responsible statesmen and people who could make proper decisions are over for the combined West, and we will see. Listen, when we talk about that the West is over, it's not because we are doing it on a whim or we want to say it. All indicators are in place, and practical actions and actually events, they prove it unequivocally. So there you go. Yes, kindergarten, that's what it is. Gotcha. So, okay, sure. Although in this particular case, as strange as it may sound, he acts and his administration acts based on, for the first time, probably the real intelligence, which, of course, once you have Tulsi Gabbard in place, which she is, and she is a responsible woman, and she is, I think so, she's good for her job. And when the real intelligence starts to pour in with the real kill ratios and what is happening, paradox of this thing is because they act this, because this time they have the real intelligence. And real intelligence tells them what is happening. And as I already stated, the only mobilization reserve Ukraine has is about 160,000 of those 18-year-old kids. The rest of men have been basically. So they fit into the meat grinder. They will continue to fit into meat grinder. And after that, we will see if they will endure as, which I don't think so, because it's going to be a primarily agrarian country. And while whatever will be the Black Sea coast and like Kharkov, which is traditional Russian city, including, and Dnepropetrovsk, former Yekaterinoslav, and Novorossiya. Putin uses this term Novorossiya non-stop. But because they are morons in State Department and in media, in this establishment media, they don't even understand significance of that. You go, and I did even the video on that. You go and look up what Novorossiya is, what it was, starting from Catherine the Great. It's all in Kharkov, Dnepropetrovsk, Odessa. Putin talks about it openly. But again, those people, they do not understand anything pretty much on any issue. And that is why they continue their game, as you correctly stated, it's childish. They will continue war against Russia. Russia will essentially rebuild political system in Kiev. Whatever will be left, there will be some little bit of oblast, if you wish, regions, which will be left under direct, so to speak, Kiev's control. They will redo the political system in such a way that it is both sufficient enough to preserve the rights of the Russian speakers, and that essentially through all kinds of their governmental institutions, including, for example, Department of Education. So that will be removed completely. But the problem is, of course, not a problem, actually. The outcome is preset or preordained already because they don't have resources. They don't have military expertise, and they don't have resources to fight it. Donald Trump, well, the point is that there is a United Kingdom, which is this Chihuahua, which pretends that it is a bulldog or Rottweiler, which it is not even close, but they have this obsessive or compulsive disorder that they are still great power, which they are not. They're pathetic, actually. So we have now this European dynamics between Trump and all. But do not forget, all those excuses about Trump not being able to do something in the first term and Russia Gate and everything. First, you know what? He could have done things better already within his first term. He never tried. Okay, he was intimidated. Now, obviously, yeah, he gets better things done on the domestically, especially with some critical appointments such as Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard. But reality is, nobody now even knows now how the regime is being run. We know that there are SAS and MI6 people around him, around Zelensky 24/7. I don't know if that probably some CIA presence. These are the guys, they are incompetent militarily, and so they continue to do what they do always. False flags, political moves in terms of more of Ukrainian. It's West. It's combined West against Russia. He can talk whatever he wants, but Ukraine will do whatever she wants. And so now you have to only hope for the Russian air defense, which intercepts most of what is flies there. But no, Ukraine and Zelensky, especially, cornered rat is always dangerous. They will be ready to go to any length. Yeah, just blow up kindergarten, blow up the nuclear power station. So it's total general routine for especially combined West as of lately, which was doing false flags. And you saw yourself, for example, yesterday they were trying to break into the Belgorod Oblast. They were obviously repelled with the devastating consequences for them. Ukraine itself is a virtual state, and it only exists because of the support from the combined West. But it's same old, as I already stated, with some differences compared to the first term. But in reality is, as I already stated, you could see his arrogance and hubris when he was saying that, oh yeah, we're going to stop it in 24 hours. Did he stop it? No. Did he deliver it? No, of course not. He can't. But the point is, he remains a narcissist, flaming narcissist. He remains American exceptionalist. And as the result, he pretends that he wants to get along with Russia, but in reality, he views Russia as the enemy. He views Russia as merely a pawn in his plan. As much as the childish and kindergarten level that plan is, he still thinks that he is a great strategist. He had his ego blown up to the incredible proportions, especially by the virtue of winning the second term and getting there essentially what is the mandate, because he got the popular vote. And then now I think once Tulsi was appointed, and she made a lot of important statements about what was going on in terms of intel, and he gets to see the real intel, the things which are obviously classified. And for the United States intel, what is classified is how badly it's losing. That's what they were classifying. So have you heard him now talking about those millions of Russians being, he was given the real numbers. He was given real ratios. He was given the real industrial and economic output. And now when he look at this, good Lord, I'm not even the big figure, so to speak, on this chessboard. And he knows this. He had this moment of clarity when he stated Putin has all cards on his hands. Trump and the United States have none. There's nothing which they can play. So when the United States decides between itself and Europe, obviously it's Europe which is going to be eaten. And it's being eaten as we speak. Many people are not happy, but just recently, like a week ago, Siemens laid off another 6,000 people. Audi is laying off another 6,000 by the 2028, I believe. Yeah, the things are happening, not in a good way. When you look at actually at United Kingdom today, it's becoming the third world country, like literally third world. People go into this London, places, but then they get out on the suburbs, and it's just, and yeah, that's the Europe. This is where it's returning back to, and they had it. They had a good run. They lived well for a while. Time to pay the bills. Well, I can tell you one thing. If you go and take the October 2024, less than half a year issue of the most reputable magazine on the cars, Car and Driver, It's a very famous magazine in the United States. And Americans obviously know their cars, believe me. They know it's probably better than Europeans. When you look at the top 25 bestsellers in the United States, there's not a single German or any other European car in there. All of it is Nissan, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, just all. You look at this, GMC and things like that. Not a single European car. They are not competitive on this market anymore. German engineering nowadays, unlike it was the case 30 years ago, it is like a joke. Oh yeah, it's German engineered. So that means what? Over-engineered, overpriced, unreliable, and done strictly for the reasons of, for some people, is the reason of prestige. Nobody wants to buy this over-engineered, overpriced crap from Mercedes, or just because, oh yeah, BMW, I drive BMW. None of them was the money they're selling for. If they break, it's over, man. You're gonna be set back, and it's just, yeah. But the point is that it's all coming back. Now they have this South Korean brands knocking back the Russian market. In this case, Chinese will have difficult time standing up to them. They picked up the part of the market while the sanctions have been enforced. So who knows now? And in this case, yeah, you look at this, Europe, yeah, they can have whatever they want. They simply do not have competitive products anymore, with the exception, for example, of obviously Airbus. Airbus is extremely competitive. I love Airbus. I prefer to fly on Airbuses, especially internally in the United States. I would rather fly A321 than I would fly the Boeing 737. God forbid. We always ask, okay, what kind of aircraft are we taking? But yeah, long range, I love my 777s, Boeing 777s. But the point is that what else? They can build some cruise liners in Saint Nazaire or in Finland. But the point is, yeah, Chinese are getting out their guns blazing, and I don't like their cars. I saw them. I drove a number of them in Moscow, for example. But if it brings any kind of fruit, bears any kind of fruit, this Putin and Trump negotiations, then yeah, looks like Ford would love to come back. And the Russians loved Ford at some point of time until 2012 and 13, when Ford Focus started to lose out to brands like, obviously, Hyundai and Kia and things of this nature, this type of cars. And then even Lada, when the Vesta came out, yeah, between Ford Focus and Lada Vesta, I would choose Lada Vesta. That's about it. So, and all these Siemens solutions and things of this nature, like Russians building their own, for example, today, high-power gas turbines and rolling state-of-the-art rolling stock, which is used to be Siemens, not anymore. So it's, yeah, things are happening. So yeah, it's, you can bypass things. It's the same as Russians were getting things until they're completely closed, or so to speak, by Russian industry. They were getting parallel imports through the third countries, or they were looking at their, what they call the friendly countries, like China. For example, when they needed to, before Russians started, the Russians are producing now their own 5-axis CNC, computer numerical control, including the core and including the control centers themselves. But when they needed to produce MS-21 during sanctions in end of 2019, 2018, they bought some machining centers from China, for example. But Siemens, all those big European names, it's over, guys. You wanted it, and nothing could be done about it. The main regulation, as he stated, I almost quote him, Europeans are not coming back. Those who left, that's over. It's taken over by Russians. And so Americans will be, as I already stated, no matter what we say, still, you have to talk. Superpowers must talk to each other. And if something good comes out, of course, economically. So yeah, Ford maybe could be allowed to come back. Plus, there are other venues, for example, you look attentively, oh, Coca-Cola left. Not really. Coca-Cola never really left. They rebranded and they licensed out all the drinks. Then you have now, you go and, Dobra Cola, whatever cola in Russian markets, a lot of it is still Coca-Cola, just under different names. Because Burger King, they say now it doesn't belong to the United States. It's a United States brand. It's said, we're not leaving. Just no matter what you do. KFC, guess what? Russians love them damn chicken. And KFC never left. There are all kinds of ways for a real production and money, real capital. This is real capital. It's not financial speculative capital. It's the capital which is based on the productive forces which produce things which people need. Coca-Cola, as much as I don't drink any kind of soda, and we know how bad it is for you, but it is still a popular drink. And so you produce some value for the society, people drink it. Americans in this respect have been on the more pragmatic side. These were Europeans who said, screw you, just be out of here. You're not coming back. Siemens is not coming back. They try to sell some solutions because Russians, obviously, until Russian industry completely satisfies the demand, there will be this tweaking process. For example, you still need more turbines than Russian industry produces now. In 3-4 years, it will be a completely different game. And they know it. So essentially, that is why those companies have been thrown out. And you look at this, and I don't know how Europeans are going to be coming back. I don't know. Except for, obviously, Auchan, which is French. Auchan is in Russia, and they were just entrenched there, say, we're not leaving. It's like Walmart. Then, of course, you have the rest of them pretty much left. But Auchan, which is French chain, they just said, nothing you can do to make us leave. IKEA lost Russia forever. So it's pretty bad for Europeans there.